Hi, everybody. It's Julie. Welcome to Hello Monday. Today I'm working on a very special project. So, you know, the Aloha set that was released for Summer of Stamping. Well, that was actually based on my mama. She was born and raised on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. And I thought it would be fun to make something unique for her. This is a bridge card. I've never made one before, but I love the fact that she will be able to display this on the mantle. Like all the cards I make and send to her, she displays them on the mantle in her house. So let's get started with this bridge card. So you need a base that's going to measure 8 inches wide by 4 1/4 inches tall. And this is Nina Solar White 80 pound. And then you want to score it at the short ends, 1 1/4 and then 2 1/2 inches from each of those short ends. So I just do one side and then I rotate my paper and do the other side because it's easier for me to make sure I get it accurate. So that's going to be our base. And then I'm going to go ahead and crease along those fold lines and then use my Teflon bone folder to further strengthen those creases because I do want this to be able to collapse nice and flat. So I really like a nice crease on there. And I love my Teflon bone folder. It works so spiffy. So once I have that done, you'll see what I mean when I talk about it being sort of like a shadow box. And that gap in the middle is normal. So don't freak out when you have that gap in the middle. Now I have already stamped, embossed, watercolored, and die cut all the images I wanted to work with from the set. And once I started planning out my layout, I realized I wanted to have a background. So I cut a piece of watercolor paper down. This is Canson XL. And I cut it to about 3 inches wide and 4 1/4 inches tall, but it was still a little bit too wide. And when I tried to collapse the sides down, it was buckling. So I just had to use my paper trimmer to just shave off a little bit more. And then I went ahead and stamped that using my Mini Misty. I determined that I wanted this to appear in the background, so it's going to be way up high and look like it's way in the distance on the final layout. And then I just used one of my favorite watercolor methods, which is to use those clean color real brush markers on an acrylic block and then use a Pentel Aquash brush to load up the color and paint my images. And that's how I painted everything. And I like to stamp and emboss all of these and watercolor them all at one time and then just have them ready to go when I want to make a card like this. So it really speeds the process up. So now I'm just testing this to make sure that it's going to fit where I want it and then collapse those sides on it to make sure that everything's flat and it's not buckling. And then to make the bridge portion, I wanted to have some grass. So I grabbed one of the grass dies from the Landscapes die set. And I'm actually going to anchor that with some washi tape and send that through my Gemini Junior. And I'm also going to rotate and do the same thing on the other edge. So this is the long edge of a quarter sheet of Nina Solar White 80 pound. And then to give it some color, I'm just going to use some Lime Ricky water-based dye ink by Catherine Pooler and a blending brush. Just give me a nice subtle but happy green color there along the edges. Now I'm just determining how tall I want the bridge portion of the card to be. And it's roughly an inch high. You know, it's got kind of that swoopy curve there to it. So I just kind of eyeballed it there on my tonic trimmer. And then the part that's going to go on the inside, I wanted it to be a little bit taller. So this is going to be kind of an inset platform on the inside, and I want it to be able to fold down too. But I wanted to create kind of graduating layers in height there so that it gives more dimension to the card. So once I determined I had it about 1.5 inches in height, I went ahead and trimmed it down so it's about 3.5 inches wide. And then I'm going to score it at 1/4 inch from each of the short ends. Now I have a little asterisk there because what I discovered is even though it seemed like that 1/4 inch was going to be perfect, for whatever reason, because of the heavier weight, I guess, of the watercolor paper, I should have scored it even a little bit more than 1/4 inch, just a hair more. And as I'm testing it to make sure I could see that it was buckling on the other side, so I went back and rescored an additional line, just a little bit more than 1/4 inch on each side so that I had some play there when I go to glue it in. So now I'm going to apply a little bit of that white glue and go ahead and press that side down where it's going to get anchored. And then I'm going to apply some glue to the other side. And there you can see how that, I guess it's a platform I don't know what else to call it, but it's this insert piece that's going to go and help me create multiple layers of dimension in the card. So I'm just going to add more glue to that flap and then flip it over and press that into place so it's lining up. And then when I grab the whole thing, you can see how these are all going to be able to collapse flat and then pop back up. So now I'm going to grab the bridge portion and apply some more glue. And I don't really know why I added more glue to the back of the grass, but I guess it's because, man, I need this thing to hold. So this is what's going to keep it, sturdy when it's standing up. So I want to make sure I have good hold on there. And you could use Dave Runner if you wanted to, but I just had my Tombow mono multi right there. So I was like, what the heck? I've been using it so far. Just grab it and keep going. So now I kind of shifted the card to the other side so I could flatten it out and then attach the other side along that folded section. And there you can see I've got a little bit of excess on the bridge part that's overhanging the edge of the card. So I just flipped it over and trimmed it off. And there you can see how I've got 2 layers of grass. One is a little bit taller. The one on the interior is a little bit taller. And then I'm planning my layout here. So I'm going to glue this little cluster of foliage, tropical foliage here on the left-hand side of this shape. And then I'm going to glue the right one in. Now you want to make sure that when you're gluing these in place that you're not overhanging the outer edges, because then when you go to try to slide it into an envelope, it's not going to fit. No worky. So make sure you don't have your embellishments and things like this that you're gluing there hanging out the outer edges, or you're going to have to make a bigger envelope to accommodate the card. Now this card is actually going to fit into an A2 envelope, and we're almost finished here. Now it's time to get our girl mounted, and I decided to go ahead and die cut another skirt for her just to pop it up and give more dimension. But I also felt like she needed just like another stabilizer or something to give her more support. So I die cut another of her figures from 110-pound Nina Stoller White just as a backing. And I glued that in place behind her. And it's just going to give her a lot more support and keep her very sturdy and upright so she doesn't like flop over or anything. And then I'm just going to carefully ease in between there and glue this. I wish I were good enough, like I could have assembled it all and then glued the bridges and the platform things in place. But for me, it's just easier to just go in there like this and get it where I want it without trying ahead of time to get it positioned perfectly. This works great for me, but do whatever floats your boat. And I thought that turned out so stinking cute. I also 3D mounted a little pineapple in her hands. My mom grew up near pineapple plantations. And so the pineapple is kind of a big deal. It also means hospitality, the symbol of hospitality. So I just had to include that little pineapple there. And then I took one of the sentiments, and the great thing about clear stamps is that when you have a long, skinny sentiment like this, you can actually bend it into shape on your acrylic block. And so I just wanted it to be kind of a semi-wavy line. And then I inked that up, and I also heat embossed it with some clear embossing powder because I didn't want to smear it while I was waiting for it to dry. I was like, no, I want to move on to the next step like right now. So I heat embossed it and sealed it in clear powder. So now I'm just going to follow the edges there with my scissors and trim it out and make it, kind of like a little banner. So I'm just snipping up those ends there to create the fishtail banner ends. And then I added a little bit more of those thin 3D dots to the back of that so I could mount it on the front. And I love how this thing just pops up and stands up. And I've got the little ukulele down there. My mom also knows how to play the ukulele. So a lot of this is it's all about my mama. And there you see it collapsed and fits into an envelope. I just love this card. I love how well it turned out. And I hope my mama loves it just as much on her birthday. I hope you got some good ideas and that you'll give a bridge card a try if you haven't before. Thanks for watching.